Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation, a place where people from all walks of life and various backgrounds come to share their transformative personal and professional stories of restoration, confidence, clarity, empowerment, education, and so much more. They're here to offer their helpful tools, resources, and affirming guidance. I'm Joyce Kiles, your global speaker, author, trainer, coach, and consultant. And if you are ready to transition, transform, and thrive, this is the podcast for you. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. If you are returning as a listener, welcome back. And as I always say, please invite two friends to invite two other friends to come into the room where we are talking all things transitioning, transformation, and thriving. So, as you know, I always very intentionally and strategically invite my guests. They are not here by accident, they are here by design. And this week is no exception. I am truly excited to have this young lady on the show with us today. She is just such a phenomenal spirit woman. Like, I just enjoyed our initial interaction with one another. I think what started out with a 30-minute conversation may have turned into almost an hour. That wasn't the intent, but that's what it became. And you know what? That's what happens when you meet good, genuine people, and there's a certain energy, kindred spirit, and synergy that takes place. And it was genuine. So I'm just excited that she has made time and space available to be on the show today. She is none other than Theresa M. Robinson, founder and lead facilitator of Master Trainer TMR and Associates, and the creator of the WarriHER Experience 3R Retreat. And we're going to get into both of those things in just a moment. So, without further ado, let me present to some and introduce to others none other than Theresa M. Robinson. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Oh, thank you so much, Joyce. I am sitting here with the biggest smile on my face because my heart is smiling because it's taken me back to our initial interaction. I love the way that you set that up. And in my head, I'm thinking, I need to be talking with you. I need to be having you come and introducing my network to you.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And you know I'm open to it, so we can certainly talk offline about that. Not a problem. But yes, thank you so much for your yes and for your willingness to share with our audience because I know that you have some gems that you will be dropping. So let's just jump right into it. I would love for you for the next few minutes to talk with our listening audience to tell them more about who you are and how you got started on your Create Yourself journey. So for the next few minutes, the floor is all yours.
Okay, well, let me just start here and just say my journey in a lot of ways came about from paying attention to what kept calling me back. And I use that initial expression deliberately, calling me back, because since then I've actually reframed that and I'm calling it my U turn. And I'm actually calling other people to think about what their U turn would look like. So for a long time, when I was working either in the classroom or the training room or having a conversation with someone via coaching, I kept coming back to thinking about how I myself just get so drawn into the honesty of what's really going on and pulling people to come share that space with me around honesty and helping them to move from that place. So no more performing, no posture, no just saying the right thing, but actually moving from that space of honesty. I also realized early on that I'm just not interested in giving people, I would say, not interested in giving them just information. Information by itself just doesn't change much. And I'm sure you recognize that, Joyce. People can sit through a whole talk, a whole conversation, and they can take notes, they can smile, they can say, oh, this is so wonderful. This is so this is like so powerful. And then they'll go right back into those same disconnected habits, that same exhaustion, that same unhealthy culture, that same silence. So, what felt right for me was facilitation that lets me work and live in the space between what people say and what they really mean. Also, between what an organization claims and how people are actually experiencing that organization while they're inside of it. So, i.e., their lived experience. And so, over time, all of that work converged and just naturally expanded. So, on the one side, I built facilitation and coaching. And that's where I work with organizations and leaders and teams around well being, trust, psychological safety, communication, belonging, and culture. But there's also another side to my business, which you became acquainted with, Joyce. And that's where I create retreat experiences for women because I also saw a whole lot of capacity. Um, Women with this high capacity, and they're functioning and they're producing and they're being caregivers, they're leading, they're showing up for everybody while they're quietly disappearing into themselves, away from themselves. And so, in a lot of ways, that was also me, Joyce, if I'm being honest. So for me, this path was the right one because it lets me hold on to all of those truths about what I see in others, but also those truths that I see within myself. And so the bottom line is people need tools, people need space, people need strategies, people need rest and restoration. And they need somebody that can help them to do better in the room. And sometimes they need somebody who can help them to come back to themselves or do that U turn before they even walk back into the room again. So that's the journey. And I used a lot of words to pretty much say this work for me is not about theory. It's about witnessing from a place where people are hungry and helping them to reconnect with what's missing and to actually act on that.
And I love so many pieces that you shared there, so if it wasn't for the fact that, the podcast needs to stretch out a little bit longer, we could have just stopped right there. But we're not, because I'm not going to deprive our listeners of getting more in depth and having a more in-depth conversation with you. One of the things that you started out with was talking about the U-turn, and I think that that is such a pivotal part of even like why I started this whole Create Yourself podcast in the first place, because
Mm,
I really want people to leave from listening to the to podcasts knowing that they can go forward and create this life and have the one that they desire and deserve, and knowing that they can do it at any age, at any stage, any phase of life, and that,
mm,
we come to a certain place in time where, sometimes it's all right to just turn around and go back.
there you go.
And what is calling me back, what's calling me back to my passion, my purpose, my mission, my
Mm,
joy, my
mm,
sanctity, so and overall sanity. So that kind of goes to the rest and restoration piece of what you shared.
yes.
My very first book is entitled Restoring the Whole in My Soul.
Mm,
And
mm,
whole is spelled WHOLE, on purpose,
mm,
because so much of what you just shared and what you create with the retreat experiences was certainly the place that I needed to get back to. So I love that you shared rather candidly and vulnerably that this is as much for you as it is for those whom you serve. And I think that
mm,
that's a beautiful thing. And then just, how it ties into the facilitation and coaching aspects of what you do. So it's proof that you can still operate in your purpose, on purpose, with intention to serve in multiple ways. So I love that you have found that marrying, if you will, of what's necessary for women specifically, and then what's necessary for the whole, the masses, as it relates to your work.
And you know what, Joyce? Even before you clarified and said, I'm spelling whole, WHOLE, I already knew that before you even said it because that spoke to my spirit. Because when I sat down to write this U-turn journal, it was really about the U-turn that allows you to go back and pick up those pieces that you left behind. And when you pick up those pieces, the more you pick up those pieces, the more you get back to being whole. So you and I are so aligned, sister, so
Oh,
aligned.
yes, very much so, very much so. And so I think that's a good segue into talking a bit more about your business part, because we're going to get to the retreat part too. But I want to pivot back a second, make that U-turn, and go back to those pieces around the facilitation and the coaching. One thing that you mentioned, I think, is so important, and that's the honesty versus the posturing.
Mm,
So when you see that, and you in the places that you have been working in over time, because I know you've been at this for a few minutes,
mm.
you're not new to it at all. So what are you finding as most gratifying in your work experience there? And then on the flip side, what are you finding to be more disheartening that you wish more more companies, more businesses, more organizations would lean into for their people?
You know what has been the most gratifying in this season, especially because we know in this season that so much truth and honesty is coming under assault, and where you have more and more people willing to acknowledge that they're existing in rooms and spaces where there's not that psychological safety. So for me right now, the most gratifying piece is when I'm working with the group and finally somebody has the courage to say the thing, to say the thing that everybody's been dancing around. They finally get to a place where they name it. Because if we're not naming it and we're still doing all this performative language and trying to frame it so it sounds all nice for consumption, then we're not going to be able to address the real issues. So it could be a matter of a leader who says, you know what? Hold up a minute. I thought I was being clear, but what I've actually been doing is creating unsafety for my team members. That for me is huge, Joyce. When that happens, that's when you can see things start to change. When a team finally has the language for what's been feeling off. And then as it relates to the retreat, I know you said we would get to that in a second, but as it relates to the retreat, it's also about hearing women say, I didn't realize how much I needed rest until I actually got here. So those are the kinds of moments when it comes from a one side of my business to the other side of my business aspect that has been so gratifying for me in this season.
So with that, I want to flip the script just a moment then and go to the other side. What do you wish? What do you wish? What do you desire to see of companies, of leadership? What do you find to be more disheartening in those spaces that you wish, leaders would lean into a bit more?
I wish more organizations would lean into how often their people know that something is off and something's not working. I want them to honor voices. I want them to honor lived experiences. And so when I don't see that happening, that's very, very disheartening for me, especially because we know organizations, they say a lot. They pay a lot of lip service. They say they want trust. They say they want inclusion. They say they want well being, brave conversations, courageous conversations. They want safety. But at the same time, in a lot of cases, when it comes time to tell or speak the truth to power, whether it's about harm or burnout or anything else that people are actually experiencing, then you see organizations get real careful about how they need to frame things or how they need to address things because they're still caring too much and prioritizing too much their image, the image that they protected for so long, that you know what? That's not working for them. And the people inside are the ones that can tell you that and can help you with that. So for me, that's been disheartening, Joyce.
And because we do similar work, that certainly is, oh, I cannot overstate it. That by far is the most disheartening for
Mm,
me, is when, you're asked to come in and speak, coach, teach, train, facilitate, and you're not honoring the voices and lived experiences of those whom you are leading.
mm,
And so, I always say, or it's a good friend of mine who I adopted, her talking about, how does she frame it? That she putting band-aids on broken legs is how she
mm.
defines it. And I thought, ooh, so I'm gonna keep that. And so I'm gonna
Oh,
give her credit. It's Elena, I'm gonna give her the credit, but that just spoke volumes to me, because yes, it's, you're not getting to the root cause of why the burnout exists and
oh,
why the turnover exists, and honestly, those who are in leadership, when they're not listening, it's as big of a problem for you as it is for the people that you're leading, because they're quitting. They have checked out on you, and
that's
that
true.
actually has the potential to make their burdens harder. So I love that you have found that place of, I won't say the sweet spot, but the spot of understanding that honesty is foundational and critical and crucial to the success of those who you work with.
Mm. And you know what, Joyce? I am such a visual person. So I appreciate you sharing that sound bite with me because in my head, I can't get past the visual of Band-Aid over broken legs.
Hmm.
That to me speaks more volumes than any words that I could say because here's the thing, Joyce, and you and I know this from the work that we do. That band aid is so critical in the sense that, on the one hand, you've got organizations who, if they even acknowledge that it's a band aid and they're willing to address it, what they want to do is take the edges only and start to peel off slowly. And when you
Right.
peel off slowly, all you're doing is doing what I call edge work, the most minimal. And the biggest thing is still there. Whereas for me, I'm like, you know what? We got band-aids over broken legs, but we also got band-aids over bullet holes. We need
Mm.
to rip the band-aids completely off because when you do that, there comes the oxygen in the room, and we can really see what needs to be truly healed because a band-aid is patchwork. But if you rip it off and let the oxygen get to it, now we can start the process of deep healing and restoration. So thank you for sharing that with me. I do operate in a lot of visuals, and that one for me is very, very powerful.
And it was for me as well. And when she shared it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to adopt that. because I am a visual person as well. And so
Mm.
just the framing around it and what you shared about not just with the broken legs, but also with the bullet wounds that so many of us have experienced, which is a good way, a great segue for us to talk about the 3R retreat. So you are the creator of the WarriHER, and you all, as you will see under, if you've clicked on to listen to the podcast, you will see all of her contact information and her bio. So you will see that WarriHER is spelled a little different on purpose. It is HER. So you'll see that. So she is the creator of the WarriHER Experience 3R retreat. So tell us about this retreat, what's included, what's involved, your vision behind it. We talked a little bit already about the vision, but just give us, just a more in-depth look into all things 3R retreat.
Okay, now Joyce, you know you have opened up a can asking me to talk about the retreat because you know that is my baby. That is my baby. Okay, so the retreat is the second arm of the work that I do. So the retreat side is so deeply, deeply personal to me. So I curate what I call restorative, high touch retreat experiences that focus on what I call those 3 R's. And the 3 R's do not change, they remain the same, but your conception of it can be different based on the season of life that you're in. So the 3 R's are rest, reset, re-engage. So the retreat is not a cute escape. It's not fluff. It's not surface level self care. And you know from our previous conversation that I put a lot into every single detail of the planning. So it's an invitation, a real one for women who have been carrying a lot to slow down, to reconnect with ourselves, and to just return home different, because we know what we're walking out of is still going to be there when we get back. And so the thing is, how do we ourselves show up different? So there's reflection, there's community, there's well-being practices, there's um, like what we're having, there's meaningful conversations and experiences that allow us to put down what is weighing us down, sister. And for a lot of us, that first R, rest, that is going to be the biggest one, the rest piece. And I tell women when they arrive to the retreat, your body may arrive literally, but based on what a lot of us go through, the arrival may not happen until a couple of days later, which is why the retreat experiences are curated for a minimum of 5 days. Even though the one I'm doing this time, based on popular demand, this one will be 7 days because women was like, we want more time.
I
Woo!
understand that the more time, the better.
So I'm excited. I'm excited about the one for this will be the third one that's coming up. And I'm pretty excited about this one because this one gives us the opportunity to have what I call like a semi-private island experience, which has not been the case before. We've had some wonderful experiences in the past, but we've shared the space with other people who were vacationing. This time it is our space, and there are certain blocks and periods of time where there will be nobody else but us and the staff. And so I'm really going to be leveraging that for the group that's coming together this year.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And as someone who finds the need to talk about rest a lot more often these days, had an opportunity to speak on a platform last week, and I told those women who were part of that experience, that sometimes we think that we're supposed to be on and show up for everybody and all the time because that is society has kind of put that on us a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage the women to take their capes
Mm.
and go put them in the washing machine and wash some of that residue off. I
Mm.
said, some of you need to take your capes and throw them in the garbage and just go buy
Ooh.
a new one altogether.
Ooh.
And then there are some of you who have these capes and you need to take them, go find a pillow in the
Mm.
nearest couch, bed, ottoman, what have you, and go take a nap
Mm.
and be okay with that.
Mm.
Give yourself the permission that you need
Mm.
if that's what it takes, because we talk about this thing of rest and you've earned rest. No, rest is not something that you earn. It is your right. It is your right to
Mm.
have. So the fact that you have created an experience where rest is needed, wanted, desired, deserved, all the things, and that it's intentional, it's not optional. You will rest as a result of participating in this experience, not only in just rest, but being able to reset and then being able to go back and re-engage with everyone in a new
Yes.
way, in a renewed way, in a restorative way. Because as you mentioned, it's important for people to understand that even in the deepest of rest and resetting and preparing to re-engage, we know that we're going back out into the society that is not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily so kind to us, but we can go back with a renewed sense of focus in doing
Yes.
so because we have had that opportunity to reset ourselves. And so I love that you incorporate this part of your work into the first part of the work so that they do go hand in hand. So as we are coming to our end of time, I would love for you to share with our listening audience any last words of encouragement, support, tools, resources, gems. You've already given so many. And of course, the very last question will be how to get in touch with you. But the second to last always is my guest to share what they want the listening audience to leave with today.
Mm. Oh my gosh. And I feel like, sister, it has been reciprocal. You have so poured into me for this conversation. The visuals that you have shared with me, like the one now about the washing machine and the cape, because I am one of those people that I'm big on visuals, but I absolutely love to be on the playground of language and to help people to translate those visuals and see how it's applicable to them. And so the washing machine now is just so like resonating in my head.
Aw.
So this has truly been a blessing to me. So here's what I would say to anybody that's listening. You don't have to live from a place of survival because that's not what we're designed to do. We're not designed for mere survival. We're designed to thrive. We've got people out here functioning, but they're not free. We've got people producing, but they're not well. I would tell people to sit down somewhere and to just be still. And that sounds basic on the face of it, but it is so powerful to just get somewhere and to be still so that you can reconnect with your deepest self. And that means tuning out the technology, tuning out all those other voices trying to tell you what you woulda, shoulda, coulda, or can be. That means literally getting still. And for a lot of people, that's going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. That tells you that it is working because survival is not your identity. The stillness helps you to come back to the truth of who you are. That's huge. And so that's what I want to leave folks with. And yeah, you can come connect with me on my website. I do have tools, I have tactics, I have strategies, I even have framing language. But you know what? All of that is just icing on the cake around the foundation that you build. And that starts with your own U turn. Start it in silence, getting still.
So good. So good. So good. I am so glad that you were able to make time and space for us today. This has truly been a blessing, personally and professionally. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Our last question to you for today is just, of course, as I mentioned at the very beginning, all of your information is listed below the podcast link itself. But I always love to ask my guests to please share with our listening audience like the best ways, because you may have 10 things listed, but you know which ways work best for you to further connect and engage. So the floor is yours to share what are the best ways to connect with you.
For me, I would say the best way to connect with me so that we can actually have an exchange is reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best way because you can engage with my content, but you can also DM me so that we can have a more personal conversation. So start there. And as you mentioned, Joyce, there are other ways to find me, but I would have to say LinkedIn would be the best way.
And I can tell you all very honestly, sincerely, that if you reach out to her on LinkedIn, she will respond back. It won't be a bot, it won't be an assistant, it is her. She is
Yes.
very personable. So, with that, I just want to say again, thank you so much for your time, your talents, your gifts, and just for authentically showing up today for our guests. It's always so important to me that I have individuals come on that when an individual finishes listening to that episode, they can go, wow, I saw myself.
Mm.
I see myself. I want to connect with her or him. I need to connect with him or her. So thank you for sharing about your business. Thank you for sharing about the retreat. I'm going to encourage each and every one of our listeners to connect with you for both. Don't do it, either or. If you can do an and in both, I'm going to encourage and in both. Okay. So thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And of course, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in because I could not host this podcast without you. So, as I always end, I always let everyone know and encourage everyone to please go forward and create the life that you desire and deserve. And remember that you can do so at any age. Let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive together.